Hello and welcome to Harry Potter, the Inappropriate Harry Potter podcast. It's actually Hogs Media, so that's our actual name. So I'm Natalie, and today I'm joined by our listener Donna. Hi Donna, how are you doing?
Hi, Natalie. Thanks for having me back. I'm glad I'm not banned.
You were banned for about 3 weeks, and then we decided to bring you back on again. So
Excellent.
just
Thank
behave
you.
yourself.
I shall.
So this is a big deal because this is the final chapter of Book 3, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. So let's just dive straight in, shall we?
Cool.
So this is chapter 22, Our Post Again. What are your thoughts on the title?
No, I actually need to interrupt you because I've been speaking to my cousin and he has a little bit of trivia about chapter 1. So I'll cite him just because so it doesn't look like intellectual theft. He's Sam. But in chapter 1, did you notice who wrote A History of Magic?
No.
Do you know who wrote the book?
No, I feel like I definitely should though. I feel shame.
I feel like you should.
I'm so ashamed.
Is it not Bathilda Bagshot?
Yeah, I would have said that rings a bell, yeah.
Well, how come in chapter 1 of this book it says Adalbert Waffling?
What?
Yeah,
Where does it says that in chapter 1 of this book?
it does. It's big news. It's a flaw. It
What?
turns out this isn't a real world.
What? Don't even. What is going on?
So
This is
I checked it out because I thought I can't just take things on face value, not again.
No, we can't trust Sam.
I know, exactly, and he's right. The little rascal, he got it right.
Nice. I feel like Sam can be like our new go-to, like our number one researcher and answerer of all questions that we have Harry Potter now. Like he's earned like a star.
He absolutely should be because neither you nor I noticed. I don't think Chris did.
No, she notices nothing. She's rubbish. I also feel a little bit nervous now. Like, you know what? I need to step up my game because Sam is listening. So this is good. We needed this. We needed a Sam. So thank you, Sam. But every question I now have about Harry Potter, I am going to be directing it personally to Sam. So no pressure.
I think that's what he's been asking for, really, by submitting that.
I'm really shocked about that. That is really cool. Did you know? Did we get anything else from Sam? Any other anything else that you noticed?
He did, but I'm going to interweave them as my own perceptions of the chapter. I'm just going to steal them outright.
Yeah, wow. That's what it's like now, is it? That's what it's like. I see.
That's my family. You can't trust us.
Yeah, if that's how you treat your family. It's a bit Slytherin there, bit Slytherin. I thought you were Hufflepuff, but I'm seeing you in a different light. Not gonna lie.
Last time you said Gryffindor, so your view of me really has changed.
Yeah, it's definitely done a 360.
Okay. All right. I'll calm myself.
Although Chrissy was a total Hufflepuff. In the last episode, she was talking about how she'd make a great bully. So, you know, she is a bit Slytherin too.
I heard about that, and she did give enough evidence to warrant being a Slytherin.
She's got some serious issues. I don't know what's wrong with her. She has a real fetish about putting trousers down. Anyway, moving swiftly on. So we are on Our Post again. I don't like this title. How do you feel about this title?
Do you know what? I hadn't thought a great deal about it. What's your beef?
I don't know. I just feel like J.K. Rowling at this stage, she's just tapping out. She doesn't give a shit. Isn't she just regurgitating a previous title and then she's just added the word again? I don't know.
Continuity?
Yeah. She's not listening, Dona Marie. You don't have to suck up to her.
Oh, don't worry. I've got beef with her. It's coming out.
This is where our show gets cancelled because she's actually like a really big fan. Okay, cool. So my first question for you is, why is Peeves introduced in this chapter? Because he's like whizzing around Hogwarts and he's like really happy that Sirius is going to get killed, isn't he? Like he's really chuffed. And I was like, where's Peeves come from? Like what function does he play in that scene?
Is this the first time? This isn't the first time we've heard of Peeves, is it?
No, but I feel like he doesn't really come up in the book. And now I feel like all of a sudden he's back. I'm like, okay. Why?
I think he's just like popped in for a bit of additional flavour because they've got to be careful and not be seen by the time they get back to the hospital wing. So he's someone that runs riot. You can just throw that in.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense.
Why? What did you
Okay.
think?
I just, I didn't know. I was like, what's Peeves' beef with Sirius? And then I Googled to see if maybe Peeves and Sirius had like a history, and there was nothing. So I think you're right. It was probably just to like add a bit of atmosphere. Um,
Yeah, I
yeah,
think so.
but you're right. In this like opening scene, they've got to try and get back inside that room where they said goodbye to Dumbledore. Um, and that's sort of where this chapter opens, isn't it? They're kind of racing back to the room. They see Dumbledore and they're like, "Yay, we did it."
Yeah, and they're also listening to Fudge and Snape talk, aren't they, at this point?
Yes. What are they saying?
So they're talking about Black getting the Dementor's kiss and hoping that Dumbledore won't interfere. And then, yeah, so this bit's all a bit odd because Snape ultimately, spoiler, is a good guy. So where's the good guy agenda here? If he's really trying to get this, death kiss, why? Does it all come back to Lily? Is it not him just trying to get the upper hand again? It's a bit dark. It doesn't spell out Order the Phoenix or good guy to me.
It is a bit dark, and he's got this eternal boner for Lily. And I just think, at what point is it about his attraction for her? When does it start becoming about revenge? And it is a bit. It's hard, isn't it, to disseminate the two? Because Harry's a good guy, and he didn't let Lupin and Sirius kill the rat, and he lost more than Snape, didn't he? He lost his mum and his dad. So for Snape to be like, I lost Lily, and this guy's got to die, this horrid, it makes him look quite bad compared to Harry, doesn't it?
I think there's a part of him that's still, there's a Death Eater still in there. He did choose to be a Death Eater, and he didn't really elect to leave. What he did was he made a deal with Dumbledore to save Lily or try to save Lily. So he didn't leave on because he wanted to. That wasn't really his own volition. So I think that's a bit of Death Eater slipping out.
Oh, I like that. I like that a lot. Yeah, I quite like that about him, that there's a bit of Death Eater still there. It makes him more complex.
Have you considered having some treatment for this Death Eater
if
crush you have?
if you can find a therapist that will work with me, then I will sign up for immediate therapy.
I
But
do
you
know a
have to
couple of
want to get
therapists.
helped.
That is true. That is true. That's where it starts. So maybe we need to just have more conversations around that.
I think when we get to book 5, maybe, and I learn a bit more about him, I'll be ready to let him go. Um, I find it a little bit annoying. So after that conversation where we hear them talking about, Dumbledore not getting in the way, I just find it a tiny, weeny bit annoying that Madame Pomfrey, she just gives them chocolate. And I talked about this before, how I felt a little bit like Madame Pomfrey could add to her repertoire of like medical first aid. Do you think I'm being a bit harsh on her? Because I did kind of lay into her a bit thick last episode as well.
Well, do you know what? Madame Pomfrey didn't write herself. And JK seems to have a bit of an issue with women having any kind of power whatsoever. All the positions of power always go to the males. And talking about that, let's just step outside that room again for a second. Let's not have the chocolate yet. Because fudge, uh, going from chocolate to fudge,
I
he
love fudge.
says, he says to Snape, once Harry's back in his right mind, he will want to thank you for saving him, or something along those lines, something very similar. And you know what? It's just problematic for me. Again, it's the richer white men deciding what people really, really want and what people really believe. And I was like, what is the function of this? Why is she reducing the voice of the disadvantaged again? There always seems to be power play, but actually she seems to side with the guys.
Yeah. I'm thinking about all the other times now where this has happened. You're right. And all the times where Fudge sort of plays down Harry, doesn't he, and ignores him.
It kind of reminds me of the glass ceiling, or maybe even the glass cliff. Have you heard of the glass cliff?
No.
It's kind of come from the glass ceiling, and women are able to break through it now. Yay, just a couple at a time. But now there's a glass cliff. And what that means is that women are put into positions of power when they're precarious. So when that position of power is short term, or it's going to disadvantage them in some way, for example, Theresa May. And JK does that herself in the books. So if you think about any of the powerful women, they tend to be evil or quite masculine and rare. So yeah, this whole white man advantage thing, it does prickle my skin a bit.
Oh, this is so true. Think about Professor Umbridge, even McGonagall. She's not exactly the most kind of warm, maternal, like.
Yeah. She gives her those kind of stereotypically what we'd consider to be masculine attributes, doesn't she? Like she's not very warm in the way that she speaks, like you're saying. She's quite curt. She likes discipline, all the things that we don't normally associate stereotypically with the feminine. Though, that does need to be challenged, and I'm glad that she's doing that. But actually, there's more to women rather either being quite masculine when they're powerful or evil. There's other women out there, and those women are capable, and there's not a lot of that in JK's writing.
Yeah. So are you saying then that the way that Madame Pomprey is written, in that all she can do is hand out chocolate, maybe suggests that she isn't that as powerful as like the other wizards?
Oh, we really deviated from that, didn't we?
I just really want to go back to the chocolate.
Yeah, I just feel like the women are very functional, but they don't have a great deal of depth, because I'm sure there's more that she had to do to get that position than dish out big chunks of chocolate.
Well, I actually went a little bit, I went into my old etymology route. Have you kind of researched her name for meanings?
I have not.
Good, because I'm not going to lie, that would have really pissed me off. That's really kind of what I do here. That's the only thing I really bring to the show. So poppy comes from the opium, and apparently King Tutankhamun's tomb contained jars of poppy juice to relieve pain from his head injury. So maybe her first name Poppy is relating to that.
Yeah, that's where morphine comes from, isn't it?
Oh yeah, of course. Oh, that's cool. And then Pomfrey comes from a type of plant that you can make into a soothing salve. And it could also refer to a pomfret, which is a small sweet lozenge made from root of licorice.
She is delicious, isn't she?
She's very, very sweet, almost too sweet. Fun fact, you have to tell me who replaces Madame Pomfrey when she retires and who becomes the new nurse at Hogwarts.
I don't know, something frivolous like
I'll give you £2,000 if you get it right.
I ain't gonna get it right.
You didn't take it seriously, did you? It's because you don't believe I'll give you the money. If Sam gets this right, it's not going to work, is it? Because can't give him money. Oh well. It's Hannah Abbott. Oh, Abbott.
Oh, okay. She's in Harry Potter's year, isn't she?
Yeah. Was she one of the Quidditch players?
She was somebody. I don't know, just some insignificant female.
Love it. Yeah. Insignificant. There you go, Hannah. If you're listening, you are insignificant.
Sorry. Hannah.
Okay. So that's my beef with Pomfrey.
Pompous.
Oh, I thought there might be a bit of gaslighting in this episode, but I'm not entirely sure I know what gaslighting is.
Well, why don't you give it a good stab, because I do like to contradict.
So was Dumbledore gaslighting Snape when Snape was all like, Harry Potter is behind all this. I know that Harry Potter has something to do with Sirius disappearing. And Dumbledore's all like, how could he be when the door was locked? And I was like,
right.
ooh.
You're right. That's gaslighting. Of course it is. Gaslighting is to convince somebody they're losing their mind, isn't it? And that's exactly what he's trying to do. He's like, oh, are you sure you're okay? Sweetheart, sit down. You're losing your mind.
Pomfrey, get the chocolate out.
That's funny because I wrote a few notes about this as well, and we took different spins. So you've taken quite an abuse of power, potentially, and I kind of linked it to you just can't bloody trust him, because it's like, when you say to your nan, don't tell mum I had a McDonald's, and then when your mum comes in, your nan's like, don't worry, we've had a nice day and we haven't gone to McDonald's. You're like, well, you've just told her that we have. It's the same kind of thing, because doesn't Snape know about time turners? He must, because they have to all get demolished, don't they? So essentially he's just given him a clue.
Yeah, also Snape is like a clever guy. He knows shit. Like, don't try and pull the wool over his eyes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I didn't like that. And then I'm wondering, another clue here that Harry Potter could be Snape's love child.
Excellent. Please go ahead.
Because Snape knows Harry better than anyone. He knows that Harry's behind it, even though the logic, as far as he's concerned, is that Harry couldn't because the door was locked. He knows Harry so well. He just knows that Harry's involved. I don't know. Is Snape the baby daddy? I just don't know.
Maybe. Because I did actually write, does Snape know more than we think? And Snape can read minds, can't he? It turns out later that he's able to perceive some kind of knowledge in people, like he can extract it somehow. But is it because, I don't know, this was spinning me into all kinds of whirlwinds, but he knows. If I was Snape, and I was a Death Eater, I would know that Black hadn't been a Death Eater, surely. So right now, wouldn't he think that one of Voldemort's supporters had come and got Black out, because Black is supposed to be a Death Eater? If he truly thought that he was guilty of this crime of getting the Potters killed, then my first instinct would be another Death Eater has broken him out, or maybe even Voldemort has had a hand in this. I wouldn't be thinking that's 13-year-old child is a culprit.
Who has pretty much no magical ability except to say Wingardium Leviosa and Lumos. And actually, you're right. He himself is always belittling Harry for being a bit of a dunce, like in potions at least, and doesn't seem to think Harry has any particular like wizarding skill. So you're right. It is odd that he would think Harry broke him out. So now you've raised that point. He should have known that Sirius wasn't a Death Eater. So did he know that Scabbers was a Death Eater then?
I think we're going to have to ask Sam.
Sam, I wish we didn't have to wait for Dona Marie to finish this conversation and ask you.
I don't know,
but him now, or would that be awkward?
He probably would get quite grumpy because I think it's his dinner time. But surely he would know, because wasn't like Snape one of his right-hand men? He was pretty powerful, wasn't he?
Yeah, and like when they all get together, they all have like that tattoo thing, and they have like that little meet and greet, wine and cheese night.
Where's Black's tattoo?
Oh, exactly. Why weren't the Dementors looking for that tattoo? Like, spoiler alert, it's right there.
And also, before we even got to that bit, sorry, I know I just steamrolled you, but I'm going to continue anyway.
Go for it.
Before we even got in that room, Dumbledore does one of your favourite things. He just disregards the safety. So you were talking in your podcast last week, this podcast, that the time turners are really, really dangerous, aren't they? And people aren't allowed to be exposed to themselves in the past or the future. So did you notice that before Dumbledore let them back into that wing, he was like, I think you've gone now. And instead of checking himself, he just whacks the door open, and they've been outside discussing as well. He's like, did you manage to do it? And they're like, yeah, got Buckbeak out. Snape's like, you're in the hallway. Get back in.
You're right, because also, do you remember when Dumbledore like closes the door? They have to stand there like together, don't they? Hermione and Harry, and they're figuring it all out. And you're right, actually, he's having a conversation with them in the future, like at the same time. Or just look through the keyhole.
Yeah, I know. You're a powerful, powerful wizard. I'm sure you know to just pop your head around the door and check that they're gone.
You're right. He has no disregard. He honestly, I've said it once, I'll say it again, and I'll say it every damn book. They need to go on some sort of teacher training safeguarding course. I mean, honestly, giving out that chocolate, I'm going back to the chocolate, but she never asked about diabetes or anything. Madame Pomfrey is literally, she's a walking lawsuit or whatever you call it. Like,
Some serious concerns.
definitely. This is what happens when you don't have like PDRs and stuff. Is that what you call them when you have like a 6-month review?
Yeah.
That's what they need. Um, I have another issue with Dumbledore. I just think I love him. I love him, but he needs to get over himself. Do you know what I'm referring to here? Do you know what he says something and I'm just like, I roll. Dumbledore, stop it. I bet
Well,
Sam would know if he was here.
I can't extract your thoughts and I don't have a pencil. But
Oh,
is
that'd
it
be
about
awesome.
him saying to Fudge that Snape had just suffered a severe disappointment?
No,
Is it when
but
he
that
says
again, I
that will
felt a
do,
bit.
Severus? I'm just going to keep guessing. You're going to have to tell me.
It's when he says it was an extraordinary achievement, not least keeping it from me. I think he was referring to when he finds out that the three friends of Lupin back in the olden days, they all managed to kind of convert themselves into animagi. Is it animagi or animagus?
Isn't anime guy the plural and animagus is the singular?
Oh, okay. You pick whichever one makes grammatical sense, please, because I'm too lazy. I was like, Dumbledore, seriously, you have the worst track record. Like, everyone keeps everything from you. For example, a massive basilisk that's hidden underneath the grounds of Hogwarts, and Professor Squirrel literally has Lord Voldemort glued to the back of his head. Malfoy is a spy and finds a secret passageway out of Hogwarts, and Mad Eye Moody, like, don't get me started on Mad Eye Moody. Like, who do you think you are?
Yeah,
Get
true.
over yourself.
It takes a lot to pull the wool over my eyes. Yeah, I know. He is outrageous, isn't he? But that is the confidence of that generation.
Hmm.
Yeah, so what I thought you were going to talk about then was when Fudge is saying, I think that guy's just lost his mind, which is probably because Dumbledore's just gaslit him.
Hmm.
But he says he's just suffered a severe disappointment. What do you think that he's referring to there?
Oh, now I just assumed he was referring to the fact that Sirius won't get the kiss from the Dementors.
Yeah, and is that what you want in your faculty? He's just upset because we can't kill someone. It'll be all right tomorrow.
I love it. When you asked you that question, though, I thought you were going to go down the line of Dumbledore's referring to the fact that he's disappointed Snape. He's let down Snape.
Well, essentially, that probably is what's happened, isn't it? Because he knows that Harry's done something, and that would have to be facilitated by somebody. And the only person powerful enough would likely be Dumbledore. But he's in a
Hmm.
rage, isn't he? Because because he has just been gaslit, and because he's not going to see a murder that day, so he's rightly disappointed.
I would love to know where he's going. Like, where is he strutting off to? Does he have like a friend he talks to? Does he have a diary?
I think he's just outside flapping his cape, just dancing around on the green.
I'd love it if he actually has like a therapist or he actually has like a little trampoline that he has to bounce on to get rid of his rage.
How did she get there? Why is that the first thing you thought of? Have you got a rage
It's because
trampoline?
it's because you said flapping around and I was thinking about him flapping with his
Okay.
little black coat.
I just imagine him swishing and enjoying the clicks of his cape.
Yeah. I bet he does some dark magic. I bet he goes into a really dark place.
Yeah.
Gets like the really hardcore herbs out.
I reckon he just goes downstairs and flicks a house elf or something. He's got that in him.
Oh, oh my god, he wouldn't do that to Dobby, right?
He'd start with Dobby.
Oh, don't say that. I love Dobby. And Dobby, easy access because he works at Hogwarts.
There's so many of them, though. You can just flick them all, top of the ears, go out the room. They're not going to say anything.
So submissive, so sad. He'd probably like to have a go at Dobby, but he's working his way up, starting with the submissive ones.
Yeah, he's the prize, isn't he, Dobby? Because he really likes Harry.
But I wonder if, like, once he has Dobby, if it will meet his expectations.
I don't know. That's going to have to be something that we reflect on in our own therapy.
I think it'd be really cool if it turned out that actually, in our joint therapy that we're having, I think it'd be really funny if actually it turned out that Dobby was like his friend and Snape like confesses everything to Dobby and then wipes Dobby's mind so Dobby forgets everything. That's
You've
sad.
lost me. You've absolutely lost me. And then you
Went
said
too
it that's
deep.
sad at the end. I'm just lost. I'm lost and emotional now.
I feel sad and confused, but I guess that's how Snape feels.
Before you storm off into some other fantastical realm, which I enjoyed, but let's not neglect, what did Fudge recommend in lieu of the Dementors, which he's realised is probably not the best form of security?
Oh, I don't remember.
Bloody dragons. He's like, we're going to have to get rid of the Dementors. So what do you think? Dragons? And
That's
then
hilarious.
Dumbledore's like, yeah, that'd be a good idea. Hagrid would like that. Wink. But what about auras, guys? Is it because they don't want to pay anybody? Is it the whole using animals so they can save a bit of wizarding gold again?
Absolutely. Now, Chrissy would be really up on this because she loves her animal rights stuff. Um, you're right, they are exploiting dragons because they can't be bothered to pay auras or auras. Do you think that auras exist at this point?
Well, they must exist retrospectively because they're created later. So we have to refer to them. We can't just ignore that they pop up at some point. Is
Yeah,
there
it is weird.
a budget cut at Hogwarts? Is that why they have to have slaves in the kitchen and
Mm.
things that create death in the air?
It does make you wonder, doesn't it? Because Snape's hair is always greasy, and that to me shouts that someone isn't forking out shampoo in the communal showers.
Yeah, or maybe he's just scared to get in there because he doesn't like to take his cape off.
Oh, yeah. And he's always wearing the same. The teachers always seem to wear the same. There is a bit of a financial issue going on with Hogwarts. I did wonder how they fund it. Like, how do they fund all that food as well? It just kind of appears out of, well, it doesn't appear out of nowhere. As Chrissy would tell us, it's the exploitation of the households.
That is true. But you can't just create food, can you? It has to come from somewhere. It's the only thing you can't conjure, I think, is food. So where does all that food come from? Is it privately funded?
Maybe actually, when what's that guy called? Something Flamel who found the Philosopher's Stone.
Nicholas.
Did that generate gold, the Philosopher's Stone?
I thought it just creates youth. Because they only made one, didn't
Hmm.
they?
Oh, I don't know. Okay. I thought maybe it made you rich and live forever. And I thought maybe if him and Dumbledore were best buds, that maybe he was giving Dumbledore money for the school. Maybe it's government funded, and that would explain why they're like, look, let's just get dragons rather than actual skilled assassins.
Well, do you know what? We've tried the floating skeletons that suck the life out of people, and that didn't work, oddly enough. We did quite a robust risk assessment. Weird. And so yeah, let's go for dragons next.
Just the obvious choice, isn't it? Really, it would be crazy not to. And I wonder where they get their dragons from as well.
I think they breed them.
I bet Fudge like accidentally ordered some from like magical wizarding eBay, and he's like, "Shit, I massively up. I've just blown the whole budget on these dragon eggs, and I need to find something for them to do soon."
I've got 82 Hungarian horntails and nothing to do with them. Yeah. So we should probably progress because we're still in that room. we're still
We
in a
get
room.
out of that room. We are getting closet fever. We're getting claustrophobic. What I thought there was something funny here about people's predictions for who the next Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher was. But if you take the words Defense Against the Dark Arts, what acronym does that make? Don't, I can see you writing. Do it in your head.
Ta-da.
How are you? Okay, Defense Against Dark Arts. Defense Against Dark Arts.
Are you saying just read as is? Because that would be Dada.
Oh, okay. Dada.
No, that's
Yeah. Oh, okay. That doesn't work. I thought it was Defense Against Dark Arts. You ruined it. You pissed all over it. It spells out Dada. And I was like, oh my gosh.
It's Snape.
Every defense against a... Oh my God, yes. I hadn't thought of that. But I was thinking every Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher has been like a Dada to Harry Potter. Except for Professor Quirrell.
That is definitely your own theory. It's not necessarily based on fact. And it's slightly wrong.
Only slightly. It's a silent T. Like a telephone has a silent P. No, it doesn't.
Right, let's move along, because now they are so when they're leaving the medical wing, Harry says that he believes he might have saw his dad the previous night. Why has no one ever said this guy is bringing up any tenuous link to his parents he wants to discuss, as you would, of course you would, but why does no one just sit down and go, right, here's the story of everything I know about your parents. I'm going to give you an hour of my time at the very least. I just give him that, or maybe some EMDR, because clearly there's trauma there.
Yeah, a bit of tapping. I don't know, something. They're just forgetting the fact that he's had this really traumatic experience, and every year at school, some kind of trauma with a little bit of history about his family, kind of like, threaded in. It is, and all of the problems that they had, especially between him and Snape, could have been resolved with a bit of couples counselling. So frustrating.
It's a bit of a carrot for him, isn't it? It's like people like, if you remain faithful and loyal to me, I will tell you more about your parents. And it's a bit coercive.
That's a really good point. And I think Dumbledore's like that a lot. He doesn't seem to recognise that Harry needs to know more. You're right. And he does hold a lot from Harry, doesn't he? Drip, drip, drip.
Mm-hmm.
Be a good boy and I'll give you some info.
Yeah, it's abusive.
You know what, though? This is the second or third time now in this chapter that we've identified an abusive Dumbledore with the gaslighting.
Yeah. He's not such a good guy after all, but he's not supposed to be, is he? And that does progress as you get in through the books, that they do show that he's flawed. And you mentioned this, I think, in your last podcast, where you said that it's kind of like when you start realizing that your parents aren't perfect and they are flawed and they make mistakes. It is quite cleverly done, because it is drip fed that actually these adults that Harry reveres, they are flawed characters. They are human and they do make mistakes. So maybe there's a bit of that happening here.
Yeah, and it's like a role reversal, isn't it? Because Dumbledore starts off amazing and ends up being a little bit like, oh, okay, you did something a little bit dodgy there. Whereas a Snape, he starts off as an a-hole and we end up learning more about him, and actually he is less of an a-hole.
Yeah, because people are complex, aren't they? They're multifaceted. They're not just what you originally believe. Talking of which, is Hagrid racist?
Is Hagrid racist?
I presume that werewolf is a race. Because they're a race of humans, aren't they?
Yeah. I hadn't thought about it. Do you think he's racist?
Somewhat, potentially, or at the very least quite limited with what he knows about werewolves, because once they're having this walk, they bump into Hagrid, don't they? And Hagrid's like, "Great news, Buckbeak," and they're like trying to hold back, like they don't know. But he says, "Oh, I thought it might have been eaten by Lupin," but werewolves don't eat animals, do they? They only eat humans. So that's a bit of a slur.
Oh, am I racist? Because I did not pick up on that. And so werewolves don't eat animals.
Apparently not, because that's part of the reason why he's friends for Anime Guy, because they couldn't be harmed in his presence. That's how they were running through the woods with the wind in their fur, together when he transformed.
You've just blown my mind. I did not even think of that. I just thought that that was the only way they could really communicate with each other in animal form. I didn't even think about.
You
Wow.
think that rat speaks wolf?
Good point.
I'm learning a
That's
lot
really
about you
interesting.
today.
Too much, some might say. Too much. That's really interesting. So I'd be quite interested to hear if people generally knew that, if werewolves only attacked humans.
Maybe I'm wrong, and I'm open to the possibility of being wrong. But I thought that was part of the reason that they did transform, because they could be with him. Or have I just seen too many fan art where I've seen them all as animals running through the woods?
It sounds really romantic the way you were describing it earlier, like with the wind for their fur, beautiful moon, beautiful stars, little campfire.
Yeah, really, really nice. I thought that's why they did it.
Well, let us know, listeners, because I actually really don't know, and that would be really interesting, wouldn't it, to know if that
And it
was
would
the
save
case?
us doing any research as well. So that'd be very helpful.
It would be very helpful.
Because otherwise I'm just gonna
Nicely
have to write
spotted.
I'm gonna have to write on yours and Chris's wall otherwise when I find out.
I love it.
So then we've got Lupin's resignation. Is that what you had?
Yeah, that was a bit sad, wasn't it?
It was really sad. I feel so bad for Lupin because he's never able to really just settle and have a career.
No, and me and Chris, we touched on this in the last episode. We feel like everyone who was involved in the Order of the Phoenix kind of has a bit of a tainted life. You know, none of them end up happy. And Lupin's life wasn't great. And like, where's he going to go after this?
There's a good moral for you kids. Don't be good. Something disastrous will happen to you. You'll either end up
Uh,
dead or in that mental health ward.
absolutely. Absolutely. So I think that's actually the key message in all the books.
But this is
Thanks,
quite
JK.
interesting. So Lupin says essentially, I'm going to have to go because all the letters are going to start flying in tomorrow because Snape has outed me. That they're all going to know that I'm a werewolf, and so they're going to send the letters in to get all their kids withdrawn from the school, or the teacher changed. So they don't want a werewolf teacher. I understand that, but they're happy for dragons on the premises. Is that right?
So Dumbledore was happy with dragons, but the parents probably wouldn't be.
But they were
So,
okay with Dementors then.
good point. Do you know what? The parents probably don't even have the foggiest. Dumbledore is so bad at communicating with parents. They probably don't even realize that there are bloody Dementors running around the place. Um, Part of me thinks, oh, Lupin, are you just being a little bit anxious? Is there a little bit of catastrophizing, a little bit of predicting the future going on? I mean, wait until the letters actually arrive before you make those kind of assumptions.
So you think that Lupin experiences generalized anxiety disorder?
I think he does. And, if he could probably take a potion for that.
You could just get some CBT, but they're not a fan, are they, of any speaking therapies or any kind of therapeutic input
Anything that
psychologically?
requires, no, anything that requires honesty or opening up, they're just not a fan of in this book.
The only thing they will do at a push is extract some memories and pop them in a pensive. Like, if you want to have a look at it, have a look. It's over there in that bowl.
A really traumatic experience. I'm not going to prepare you for what's in that bowl. Just do it and then move on.
Just pop your head in there, will you? You can live it for me.
Oh man, that's funny. Why do you feel sorry for Lupin? I'd love to know where he goes. You know how we talk about a spin-off about, all those characters that get introduced and then we never hear from them again, like that flying Ford Fiesta. I'd like Lupin to feature in a book where we find out actually what he gets up to on his travels.
What do you suspect it is?
I don't know why, but I'm feeling like he probably goes to Romania.
Okay. I
I
feel
don't. Is
like
that because?
he does speak to somebody about his generalized anxiety disorder, and because there's so much shame around mental health in Hogwarts and the magical world, we just don't hear about it until he comes back a bit calmer and with a partner.
Yeah, I think you're right. Well, good for him. It helps. He gets a gown, so
He
that's
does,
another theme.
and he
Therapy
gets
helps.
tonks, doesn't he, as well? So that's it's a great choice for him.
Yeah, I like Tonks. She's quite fiery, isn't she? But then he dies, so therapy can't really help you all the way. Just
Don't
some of the
worry,
way.
she does too. It's fine.
They don't worry, guys. They do find happiness, and then it ends really quickly. That's the other message in this book. You do find happiness. It's just it won't last very long.
Be careful, it's fleeting. Yeah, unless you're really dark. Did you have anything to say about the rest of that interaction with Lupin?
No, I mean, I guess I just felt like he was quite proud because he wouldn't accept help, would he?
I
I
don't
would have
blame
liked
him.
Dumbledore. Yeah.
What are you going to say?
I do wish that Dumbledore had been like, look, no, just stop freaking out a second. And just let's just wait and see what happens.
Well, he created Hagrid a shed. Why can't he do one for Lupin?
Exactly, that's a really good point.
They could flat
I
share.
mean, they could flat share. I mean, there was a massive spider in the Forbidden Forest that I'm pretty
Exactly.
sure Dumbledore did not tell the parents about either. Like, I think you can let Lupin have a flat share with Hagrid.
And Hagrid loves animals. So that 3 days in a month, he's going to have a great time. The more vicious, the
Oh,
better. So I think it's a perfect setup.
actually, that would be a really good little bromance, wouldn't it, between those two?
Would be. I think they'd get on quite well as well, but there is that underlying racism that we need to be careful of with Hagrid. But at this point,
Yeah, his
Lupin's
drinking
left, hasn't
problem.
he? He's given Hagrid. He's not given Hagrid at all. He's given Harry the Marauders map. He's like, "Your dad would want you to have this," and then pretty much goes. And Dumbledore's saying to him, "Why are you so miserable?" Why am I so miserable, Dumbledore? Probably because as soon as I make any connection with anyone that knows my parents, I'm not allowed to see him again. So probably that. And then he says, they're talking about Pettigrew and Harry's really angry, saying, essentially, I pushed him back into the arms of Voldemort, and that's really dangerous. Trelawney's had this prophecy saying essentially that Voldemort's going to get his right-hand man back. And then Dumbledore, to comfort him, says, Harry, your dad would have done the same thing. Your dad was a brave man. So through the books, Harry's dad is funny. He's outrageous. He's just fun to be around. He's brave. He's loyal. And his mum had green eyes.
You're right. You're right. That's all we learn about her. And she's good at
Lots.
charms, but we're not really sure much more other than that.
Probably because someone took an interest in her, Snape, and taught her potions, and they did potions together, and they upskilled each other, because he saw her as more than just a pair of green eyes.
Oh, I love that. That would make such a good t-shirt, wouldn't it?
It really winds me up because they always say, he looks like his dad as well, except from those green eyes. And his mum, I mean, James was a bit of a arsehole. He bullied Snape, he broke rules, he wasn't always terribly kind, and that gets picked up quite a bit. So really, isn't his mum the brave one? Because she stands up to her love interest and says, you can't humiliate people, you can't bully them, you can't be this man. She's brave and she's kind, but he's never compared to her except for the colour of his eyeballs.
That is so spot on. And actually, later on, we find out in a few books' time, Dumbledore and Snape are having a chat, and Dumbledore says actually, because Snape, I think in the first book, it's a flashback, isn't it, of Snape being like, he's just like his dad, he's really conceited, he's a show off, blah blah blah. And Dumbledore's like, actually, if you get to know him, he's a lot more like his mum. But that is it. That you're right. That's literally the only input she has. That makes me love Snape even more because he actually saw her for who she really was, didn't he?
And maybe James did too, but certainly no one else did. They've got no memory recall of this woman.
Yeah,
She was holding him when she died to protect him, but still, she's never referred to as brave.
Yeah, and she's the reason he lived. Her love and her sacrifice, and yet it gets played down a lot, doesn't it?
Yes, and that's maybe because of those feminine attributes, that she is calm and she is loving, and you must have fantastic eyes as a woman.
Yeah.
So I took you down that pathway again, but
very pensive.
It keeps sticking out to me as I'm going through a chapter, and I'm like, how did I never read it this way? Is it woke or is it broke? We'll have to discuss that another time, won't we?
Nicely dropped it in there.
That was paid for advertising.
You've just reminded me, though, of something Dumbledore says. He says Pettigrew owes life to you. And I can't remember if actually that does end up helping Harry out in the future.
Do you know, I couldn't recall either. Sam would probably know. But you're right, because he does say that. He says it makes magic is at its deepest, essentially, when someone shows loyalty or they show love, because the magic that kept him alive was his mum's love, wasn't it? And the thing that's going to protect him from Wormtail is the loyalty. So she's sewing in a few morals there. So, you know, there are some benefits to being a good person.
But we can't remember what they were
because they don't stick out as much as the rest.
I think Sam will hopefully be able to tell us if it actually does pay off that he let Pettigrew go, because I cannot remember.
No, nor can I. But that's probably because it's insignificant. It's not causing any drama, so we haven't attended to it. And then this might be the longest podcast ever. I hope we still got
longest and the best. Yeah, defo.
I don't know if Chris is going to get you a Christmas present this year. So now it's the end of the school year. Harry's feeling low. Of course he is. Is there no such thing as like fostering in the magical world? Because they know that the Dursleys are abusive. Why doesn't someone foster him?
I know, that is awful, isn't it? And I think I asked Chrissy something about why doesn't he just stay with someone else? And it's because of that blooming magic, isn't it? He's safest, even though they're awful to him, he's still safest with Petunia, with her blood protecting him. But then actually it turns out that this summer he ends up spending it with the Weasleys anyway. So what's going on there?
Yeah, so it's nonsense. And when we talk about safety, it's only physical safety, isn't it? Like, he's at danger of physical harm, but he's being traumatized in that house. He's being abused. We had a little bit of feedback there. So is that the only safety that they really consider? And hasn't he not shown himself to be able to manage any kind of physical collision with Voldemort?
Absolutely. Like, you're spot on. They do not recognize mental health, anxiety, depression, trauma. They don't recognize anything, do they, in this world? And I am really curious. Like, I wish we could know what would have happened to Harry had he been fostered by the Weasleys. Like, would the Death Eaters have gone after him? Because actually, by going after him and exposing themselves, that there was no benefit to that. So I'm wondering if actually this whole "you're only safe if you live with your aunt" is just a load of...
Yeah, it's absolute nonsense, isn't it? Because I think I know why they don't foster him, the Weasleys.
Because they need Ginny to love him.
Maybe that, but I think he'd have crossed those boundaries anyway. He's a rule breaker. But I think it's because Harry's incredibly selfish. Because Ron's saying, "Summer, mate, I know you hate the summer, so I'm going to get my dad, the very poor father I have, to get you some Quidditch tickets. And we'll go to watch the Quidditch and we'll support you." And he's like, "Yes, excellent." And then the trolley comes along because they're on a train now. If he hasn't transported you there verbally, we're on a train. He then orders himself a huge lunch from the trolley. Doesn't get anybody else anything. And I think we're like, do you know what? I just don't want him here. He's selfish.
Do you know what's really sad is I'm starting to think that actually Ron only said that because he could see the trolley lady was coming towards him. And he was like, if I offer this, Harry's going to obviously offer me some food.
Yeah. I'm going to get a
Because Ron
pumpkin
loves-
pasty out of this.
He got nothing.
He got nothing. He never gets anything. And Harry's just like scoffing, putting his thumb up. Yeah, take me to the World Cup. Excellent. Thank you.
How things have changed. Do you remember when Harry was trying to like get into Ron's good books in book 1? And he's all like, oh, I'll buy us all these chocolates and sweets off the trolley. And then, yeah, 3 years into the friendship, things are starting to get less interesting, making less effort with your friends. Not cool, Harry.
He's appalling.
Yeah. Oh, poor
You're
Ron. I bet he
very
was starving.
I bet he was starving because he's got nothing except when they do have 82 bacon sandwiches, I think, every morning in the Weasley household. But Pigwidgeon comes
Yes.
and Sam posed, how does Pigwidgeon manage to fly and tap on the right window? How does he not get sucked into the what was it called? That kind of stream?
That is it's such a good point because the wind, when you like unwind the window, put your head out of it, and then the wind,
Yeah.
like G-force, that pigeon doesn't pigeon? That now doesn't stand a
Pigwidgeon.
chance.
No, because he kind of
Pigwidgeon.
bounces against the window, doesn't he? Like a moth at a light bulb. And he's like really unsteady and he's really excited. Yeah, how he
Oh.
didn't get swept up into that is a really, really good point. But I feel like this is another bit of evidence for Crookshanks being animagus.
Why?
First of all, he just raises his head and pops his head back down when there's a flying bit of food in the room.
Good point.
And then Ron, to check it's safe after Harry gets a letter from Black saying, you know, this pigeon, this owl, I'm doing it now, this owl can belong to Ron for, you know, making his rat into a human. Ron holds out Pigwidgeon, puts it in front of Crookshanks' face and says, is he okay? Crookshanks purrs and puts his head back down. Like he'd have had a nibble.
Even just a little lick, a couple of licks.
Yeah, exactly. He wouldn't have just been, because he's responded to Ron, hasn't he? He's like, is he safe? And he's purred to show, yeah, something positive. So he's understood the command again. He hasn't attacked the clear prey. He's also sitting across the carriage from Hedwig, and he's just chill, like he's almost a human in a cat body.
Yeah, that is a clever cat. Unless, you know, like you said earlier in the last podcast, J.K. Rowling's just never met a cat and she just thinks they're super smart.
Not once has this woman met a cat or a strong woman. Or maybe she just likes to be the only strong woman in the room, and we've all been there.
She's going to come up to you big time, Donna. I'm going to put your home address on the podcast.
Good luck trying to find me. I'm very short. She'll be in the same room with me and she won't even notice. But yeah, no, you know, Dementors are still out looking for Black as well at this moment as well. So are they allowed to roam free then?
Oh yeah.
Are they just allowed to look around for him, get themselves a new cookbook?
Oh, it's like free for all, isn't it? And then I think that's why Sirius was like, I'm gonna like show myself really far away from Hogwarts so they back off Hogwarts. And I was like, yeah, but that village that you show yourself to be in, they're just gonna get like inundated with Dementors. So you're not really doing anyone a favor, really.
No, no, just have them roaming the UK. That's okay. Not safe to be at the school, but just have them around the Gen Pop.
At least they were contained at the school. I
That's true.
mean,
Ish.
yeah, irresponsible. Again, I think Chrissy mentioned this as well, the relationship between muggles and wizards, and how the Dursleys are quite scared of Hagrid and magic because they give Dudley a little pig's tail. They do quite a lot of magic that humiliates humans. And now I'm thinking they don't really seem to care that these Dementors are just going to be like let loose on all these muggles now.
No, they don't. And another thing they don't care about. So they got off this is the nicest bit, I think. So Harry's got off the train now. They're all going their separate ways. The Dursleys come over, and what's Mr. Dursley called? Is he just Mr. Dursley?
Oh, something Anon.
Vincent?
Vernon.
Vernon. Yeah, Vernon. So Vernon says to Harry, "What have you got there? Something to sign? Because I won't sign it." And Harry says, "Oh no, it's just a letter from my godfather." And he says, "You haven't got a godfather." He's like, "Yeah, no, I have, but he's on a run because he's a serial killer, but he's going to check in with me every now and then," which I thought was great. I'd want to say the same if I was Harry. But it also shows that no one's given the Dursleys a heads up that there's a serial killer on the loose, potentially looking for Harry.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point again. It's just really unbelievable, isn't it? I would not be happy if I was the Dursleys knowing that.
You had an ugly son.
Now I'm starting to think maybe did magic have something to do with that? That old lady that lives with the cat? Maybe she like cursed Dudley.
Maybe. He does look exactly like his dad, though. But you've mentioned that before, I think, that JK likes to make the baddies unattractive and the good people attractive. And that's really exposed, isn't it, with the Dudleys?
Yeah, I wish I could take credit for that. I think that was Chrissy. She was like, "Oh, it doesn't age well," and I was like, "Oh, it's not a wine," but she had a good point that that stereotypical like you are ugly, so you are evil. And that's why I guess I quite liked about the whole Snape storyline. Like they set him up from the start to look in inverted commas, like he's ugly and he looked evil, didn't he?
Yeah.
Because of all these tick boxes, and actually he wasn't. Well, I mean, he was a Death Eater, so there was a bit of evil in him, but we can forgive him that, can't we?
Some of these things don't hold up. I know JK pretends to be a feminist now. Sorry, JK, if you're listening, but it really doesn't. It's not evident, is it, in the Potter books? But she does create these very complex and clever layers to the story. What we like to do, what you and Chris like to do, and I like to send you a message about, is pick holes in it. And that is fun.
Yeah. We do love to pick holes. Like, for example, and this is the last time I'm going to, be mean towards the Weasleys. But Ron is all like, I know how to use a fellytone now. And I'm just like, head palm. Your dad works in the Department of Muggles. How does your dad have a job if his son thinks a telephone is a fellatone?
I think he says that because he wants Hermione to think he's cute.
Oh, and it worked. I mean, I thought he was cute. So
And Ron
a
is
little bit
cute, isn't
stupid,
he?
but yeah, he's cute in like a bit of a, like a dunderhead kind of way.
Yeah, he is. And I think he does do stuff like that because she's so smart. He can't exactly outsmart her, but what he can do is make himself appealing in other ways by being cute.
See, I think Hermione's quite a strong character now that you say that, because she does sort of swoop in and save him, when she corrects his wand movements. Like, it's Leviosa, not Leviosa.
She does, but it feels sometimes that that's a little bit contrived and she's the know-it-all girl, because that's another like stereotype, isn't it? But she does get put into her place a lot as the female as well. Like when we looked a couple chapters ago, that she had to ask for permission to speak. And then in this chapter, Harry can't be bothered to tell Ron what happened while he was unconscious. So he says, "You tell him," and then he starts eating chocolate. So, she does have to play the submissive role, and she has to fight that with her intelligence because she doesn't have the confidence or the strength.
That's true. And in the previous chapter as well, Snape like barks at her to shut her gob, basically. And even Fudge is like, "Oh, all right, mate, like let the little lady speak."
Oh, go on, let her have a go. She'll get it wrong anyway, don't worry. Yeah, there's a lot of that. But I think we might have absolutely rinsed this chapter.
I think so. I mean, one thing's for sure, Chrissy's never going to let you come on here again.
And nor will the general
No.
public. You'll get public outcry.
We'll get a lot of complaints from lots of Sams from across the world who listen to our podcast.
Yes, please. Come and complain. We want to battle it.
Oh, go on, yeah. Anything would be nice. No, but it's been fun. Thank you so much for having us on board. And that's it. Like, this is a momentous occasion. This is the final chapter of book 3. How do you feel?
I feel privileged and thankful. Thank you for inviting me on again. I'm very pleased I got a second go.
We'll call it a second chance or a last chance.
However you want to frame it, I'm here talking now.
Thank you very much for your wisdom. Thank you for Sam's wisdom too. We'll be calling on him for his support and his help in the future. Just stop passing off his knowledge as your knowledge and it'll be fine. You've got nothing to prove here, Donna. But it's not cool to steal other people's ideas.
I'm the older cousin. I'll do as I please.
Okay. Look, I feel sorry for him.
As you should. No, thank you, Sam, for making me look knowledgeable.
And thanks for listening. Thank you. Okay, cool. Well, let's wrap it up for today. Thank you again, Donna and Sam and Chrissy. We haven't missed you at all, so don't rush back. But thank you for listening. No one likes to suck up, Donna. You can find us on Facebook and Spotify and Audible on Hogs Media. So yeah, tune in every Friday for a new episode. Thank you. Bye.